the swastika. As triggering as this image is for people today, those who wield the symbol seem to have little to no understanding of where it comes from. Let's do a deep dive on sound. You may have heard that everything with form has a frequency to it, but perhaps you're unaware that three-dimensional objects can be translated from form to frequency and then back again. Dolphins are known for their ability to echolocate, using sonic beams they project in front of them. Those cymatic frequencies are reflected back to the dolphin, creating a 3D image for their abnormally large brains to process into needed information about their environment. Researchers put the dolphin's sonic beams into an audio file and use cymatics in water to visualize what the dolphin might be seeing. Astonishingly, each of the images was used to create 3D renderings of the exact object that the dolphin was detecting. Luc Montagnier discovered he could take the acoustic imprint of DNA, translate it into an MP3 file, email it to a colleague on a different continent, and it could be reproduced into DNA through the use of polymerase chain reaction, or known in the COVID era as PCR. John Stuart Reid, a British acoustic researcher, posited that because the cochlea of the ear, which is only 30 millimeters long when unwound, is too small to capture a full oscillation of long wavelengths, such as the 12.37 meter wave from the lowest note on a piano. This implies that all the information needed to understand a sound is not spread along the waveform, but encoded in every part of the wave. It's fractal information in the form of sound. Dr. Ellen Polyakov at Manchester University found that sound can change the taste of food, meaning that what happens in your sense of hearing influences other senses such as taste. Movies without soundtracks seem to need better writing and visual direction in order to make the same kind of deep impact on the audience. Selin Atasoy at Imperial College London used the Laplin equation to visualize the brain's connectome harmonics and discovered that different regions of the brain produce different frequencies and strives to come into harmony with itself. LSD was given to volunteers, and it was shown that the repertoire of the seeming orchestra in the brain became even more complex. All of this leading Selin Atasoy to conclude that the brain behaves much more like a symphony than it does a calculator, and that the future of medicine is likely to be frequency-based. All this is to say that sound matters in a true form to the human experience, and it has always mattered. Michael Faraday, an English scientist, discovered that non-linear standing waves that appear on liquids, enclosed in a vibrating receptacle like cells within a body, produce recognizable imagery from ancient cultures. Many derivations of the Holy Cross, the X-Men logo, and even the swastika can be seen. But before the swastika was given the meaning of racial superiority in the 20th century, it had a far more esoteric and scientific meaning to ancient cultures. In fact, Dr. Volodymyr Krasnoholovets at the Department of Theoretical Physics at the National Academy of Sciences in Kiev, Ukraine, states that the earliest remnants of civilization that led to the ancient wonders such as Göbekli Tepe and the cultural explosion that came from Mesopotamia with religion, art, high sciences, and philosophy actually have their root in Ukraine on top of volcanic inerton fields. Ceremony by the thousands were performed on these geographic locations, attuning people to the biofields of the earth. Dr. Krasnoholovets states, whilst emotions receive little scientific attention, they may have a physical impact in terms of inerton waves, which are real carriers of the pervasive energy information field or biofield. The origins of mantra, particularly for Tibetan monks, trace their lineage back to Khortytsa Island in Ukraine. Today, Ukraine seems to be the hotspot for neo-Nazis that wear the swastika, but seem to have very little understanding of its actual significance. Anywhere from 32 to 26,000 years ago, ornaments that resemble cymatic patterns were buried with people's bodies, perhaps in order to allow the consciousness to continue on after the death of the body. Dr. Krasnoholovitz states that ancient Ukrainians had no violence, no class separation, no weapons, and no words for conflict for thousands of years. And they created 80% of the symbols we still use today, including the yin-yang symbol and the swastika, which is found in ancient sites around the world. No other conventional understanding can explain why the swastika is found all over the Old World and also in the New World. In ancient Ukraine, the swastika seems to have depicted the movement of cosmic and celestial bodies that are mirrored inside terrestrial creatures here on Earth. The pixelated photo in the center shows a photograph of the human embryo in its initial stage of development. Notice the swastika-like appearance. The upper left shows galactic movements through the sky. Perhaps the only way to destigmatize this symbol from its association with racial superiority is to understand that the originators of placing this cosmic symbol into artifacts was a culture that didn't seem to segregate people based on color, status, wealth, gender, or any other defining feature. In light of this, I put forth the humble hypothesis that the swastika itself is impartial to our perverse human perspectives on it. It cares not whether some people use the symbol as a tool to signify hate, superiority, or anything but the cosmic principle of creation. But it is not unintelligent either. Just like the Star of David or six-sided star that appears in many places around the world, as well as natural formations such as snowflakes, it is a messenger that will likely outlive all our silly ideas and personal usages. Perhaps the only way we can do justice to the meaning of these symbols is to surrender our human concepts and simply dance with one another as equals. And in fact, as I'll get into over at benjosephstewart.com in the exclusive member content, dancing in groups is a scientifically verifiable way to synchronize brainwaves and possibly amplify the inerton wave signals from the Earth, literally giving the message of Gaia a voice through our human cooperation.